we are all set up and ready to go. So, hello everyone, and welcome back to Factorio. So, I'm going to click resume, and then we can get started. Now, last time, I was down here staring at some uranium, and we need to either get this uranium back we have to get sulfuric acid down here, get uranium back, or, which I think is what we're going to do, is we're going to give up on this temporarily and move on to other things which will help us do this more easily in the future. So we're just going to walk back through that, and hopefully that area doesn't get constantly attacked. It probably will, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Alright, where the heck am I? How do I get out of here? These solar panel fields are just the worst. Alright, I think if I run down here, there's an opening in the cliff. Just gotta sneak past all these biters. Alright, so let's get back to the factory proper, so that I don't have to worry about being out here all the time. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be redesigning our space platforms to use foundries, because I realized that like 99% of the space on our space platform, and also a lot of the power usage, is from just running a bunch of electric furnaces to smelt up steel. But we just like don't have to do that. We can just do foundries, melt the ore, and then cast it, and then that's just way more efficient. And also the machines go a lot faster, so we need less space. Alright, so we're back up here. And just a little bit further until we're like properly inside the factory. And then we're going to start doing the redesign. Alright, we are up here now. There we go. This is a good enough spot. So, this is the space platform in question. Now let's just go off to the side somewhere where we're not going to be in the way, and just get a foundry, and you are going to melt iron, and then we're going to get another foundry, which you need to hold shift for, and you are going to cast some steel. So let's see here. How much, if we go back to Vulcanus where we do most of this stuff, our steel casting foundry is here, and it is 4 speed modules, gets you like 7.36. Now, I think what we're going to be doing though is prod mods, and then beacons. So if we just do something like that, then this is the input belt, that's the output belt. You each get those inputs, and we need another input belt for the calcite that this is going to be using, but we're in space, so calcite is available. And then we just run the iron pipe along. And this should give us the steel much more easily. And we're gonna, let's see, actually, this is 93.7 iron, molten iron. So we're gonna get like a couple of these. So we get a couple of those in, and then we pipe them along, And then we productivity module them. So we have something like that. And these are output belts. Like that and that. Alright, so we have this. And then we would just need our beacons, which we can run up along this way so that they sort of overlap and catch most of them multiple times. I don't know, something like that. We might move them to have more beacons in there if we need to. Alright, what's happening on Novice? Why are we losing a drone port? It's these guys again. I could have sworn I destroyed these guys, unless they've just moved forward some. Alright, let's see if we can push that up forwards into their territory and zap them. But I might have to run over there manually. I really, really need to just get Vulcanus up and running so I can have artillery again and not have to deal with all this. Alright. So, what was I doing over here? So we had this. What I need to do is I need to just put this in here somewhere where we can actually get it built. So let's... If this works, we're not going to need all of this stuff. So let's dismantle all of that. And then... Where's that gone? You get copied. This whole thing gets dismantled, and then you get pasted in. So it's going to have to do some requests for that. Meanwhile, we're going to have to be back on Novice. So we did make some progress in this, but we're going to need to move even further forwards. Hello. We are trying to deal with some biters being annoying and getting close to my power lines and drone ports and stuff, while also designing a whole factory up here. So we're going to try to use foundries instead of all these 20 billion electric furnaces. It seems more efficient that way. Alright, that is not the laser turret that I would have placed first. But I guess the drones can do what they want to do. Alright, here come these laser turrets. And of course, that power pole got destroyed in the meantime, so these are all unpowered. Hopefully they can get that up and then destroy all that. Alright, anyways, in the meantime, up here, we have... It says we have no foundries available on the planet. Now, I'm pretty sure I know that that isn't the case. I'm pretty sure we have a couple, right? I could have sworn somewhere in here. I could have sworn somewhere in there was something going on. Alright. We've done it. So those worms are now getting destroyed. Now we just have to worry about these guys up here, because there's always more biters everywhere. But hopefully that will do its thing, and we'll hold out for a little while there. Now we just need to check. So if we go and have a foundry, I have 20 foundries in my inventory. There are none in logistics storage. Right, that makes sense. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to slap down a pass provider chest. Set this to request not as many. And throw those in there. So now we have those available on the planet. And it should be functional. So we're just going to have to wait for another launch, which means waiting for more blue circuits, which don't seem to be showing up. What's wrong with our blue circuits? They're just very, very slow. As expected. We're getting there. We'll get there eventually. Okay, meanwhile, over on Vulcanus, we have used up all the carbon we've supplied, and actually it's the sulfur which is missing. Okay, so the Vulcanus support, it's got a whole bunch of stuff on it. We should be able to make this work. Do I have extra crushers up here actually? We might not. We have 2 extra crushers up here. So if we just add those in, we've got like a ton of room. So if you go here and you do advanced carbonic asteroids, actually that's going to be a bit of an issue. Okay, we can save space by doing this instead. So if we just take those guys out, because we don't want to be recycling the carbon, we want to be using it. So we need those, and these get placed to do this. Then we need to get it out onto a belt, which we can squeeze in this area like that. So you guys get a belt. You need to be moved over slightly. And then those settings get pasted across. And now you can do your output to there. And then this belt can go down here, across to here, and is this just barely too cramped to work? Let's see, we can probably take off that iron belt. We probably just don't need that to exist. So then you go down there. And you then need to be set to do carbon or sulfur. Or sulfur. Actually, no, we can just do sulfur is greater than 200, I guess. And then these will all be just set to filter whitelist sulfur. And then the carbon... Oh, these need to not be set to blacklist everything, but that's fine. So then the carbon needs to be put somewhere, which I guess it can go into here. And input priority right, so that that carbon will get removed. Okay, hopefully that works. So now we just set those filters off. And you get the recipe. Alright, so now we have sulfur. Sort of. We need to... Honestly, if we just get rid of that, and then bring this down to there, and then we just dismantle all of this to get rid of that carbon, and then send that back in. Alright, so now we're sending a pack of sulfur down. And hopefully that will be fine. So we're sending sulfur down, which means that it should use some of this carbon, and hopefully that will be functional again. Okay, meanwhile up here, these guys are probably going to need more beacons. And they're also going to need that whole giant thing to get filled in. Don't know why that hasn't been done yet, but we need it to. Alright, so back on this. So if we go back to Vulcanus, this uses way more carbon than sulfur, so theoretically we should get stuff done there. And we are making coal again. A very, very small amount. And yeah, so there we go. Now we've sent off another chunk of that. Oh, this needs to actually be output filtered to carbon. So hopefully that works. So this should be producing, what, 0.4 sulfur and 1 carbon. I don't know if that's good enough. Oh wait, you are filtered the wrong way. Alright. So, I mean, it's doing something. I don't know if this is going to get stuck or not. We might need to set this to like 400 just to get it filled, so that the carbon goes through the belt. Oh, we're still taking from this. I don't know if we want to do that. Yeah, okay, what if we just have this other source of carbon just go along and do that for a while. Alright, then we need this to grab the carbon off of here, or the extra sulfur off of there. And then this should work, maybe? Oh, we need to make sure that you don't fill up with sulfur. So hopefully that's okay. Alright, I don't remember how all this stuff works, but it looks like it's working. Now, if we productivity module you, how is that going to work? So you are 1, 0.4, 0.01. Alright, so productivity module U looks like it makes the actual production less efficient. There's no way we're getting a speed module in there, right? Right. Okay. So we're just going to leave it at that, probably. So now Vulcanus is functioning and producing not all that much sulfur, but like some at least. And actually, I think we should probably get these guys doing this as well. And you can be coal or sulfur that you output. And then you go in output priority, filter sulfur to the right. Alright, so now we have even more of these guys in. And hopefully 4 of these will produce enough sulfur. And there we go. So it's doing something, but not very quickly. But at least the planet is technically active and is not just completely dead. So now we can go back to here, and we're still not getting all of this foundation built in. Alright, so we're going to need to have more beacons for these, probably. So if we just stack a billion beacons like that, and then speed module all of them. So now this will be 200 of that, probably like another solid chunk of that. As far as output, it is going to be 5.45, 10, 15-ish once all the speed modules are in. So I think we are going to need either another one or more speed modules, which seems wildly power inefficient. Alright, let's see if we... Yeah, I think at this point we're pretty safe to just deconstruct all of this and take down the foundation as well, and also deconstruct all of this and take down most of its foundation as well. And that's all doing stuff. So now the power situation is actually much better, to the point where we're actually doing things. Alright, so step 1. Where is our iron ore belt? It was this stuff in here, right? So we have this, and then this down here. So yeah, all this stuff here is our iron ore. So we can just take... This whole situation is very convoluted and dumb. But that would go underground to the iron. So yeah, let's just take this merger here. Let's just dismantle all of this stuff because we don't need it. And we just take this belt around and into there. So that all gets built. Then our next step is, well, we still need more of this, right? We needed 25 steel for the final product, and this is gonna be like 18. So let's add in another one. And paste that across. Paste that across. And we're probably going to need another one of these now, right? So that's going to be 90, 180. Yeah, we definitely need another one of those. So we just need to do that. And then those go across to where they need to be. Then that stops there and goes along. And then you get flipped around, you become a second input. Alright. Then these beacons just sort of keep going. And the speed modules go along with them. Alright, so this still needs a whole lot of power. But we might actually be able to cut back a little bit on the solar panel spam. So if we, no, I didn't mean to blueprint that. I meant to deconstruction planar it. So if we take all that out and then just hope that what we have here is enough, then that's a significant improvement. And I really want it to build this so we can get these beacons in and actually do the counting. Alright, so then the other thing we need is we're going to need the calcite. So we're going to need like 0.5-ish calcite going into here. So over here, this one machine produces like 0.4 calcite and some ice. So if we just get, let's get some of these extra solar panels out of the way. So this is a filter which filters out only the iron asteroids going up. Okay, well this is, first of all, that's just backwards, right? Fairly confident that that is simply backwards. And that's supposed to be the iron asteroids going out that way. And then we want another belt here with output priority right. Filter out oxide asteroids. And this is going to be a bit confusing, but we have to go around like that. And now that we're over here in an area with some room for it, we're going to get in advanced oxide crushing. Just have 2 of them just to make sure. So those are going to take those. They're going to output to here. And then this belt is actually going to go around this way. And then that iron belt is going to need to move ever so slightly. So you filter back in, take input priority left. And then the other, belt that comes out is that, which is going to be filtered. So oxide asteroid chunks go out left. Everything else goes out this way. And is going to come down here. And go across this. And then down. And not quite that far down. Also, we don't need to go underground all those random inserters which don't need to exist. Okay, let's actually dismantle this whole block as well. So that all goes away and saves us a whole bunch of foundation. Alright, so back to what we were doing. So the oxide asteroids go out here. The ice and whatchamacallit goes out here. And then so this belt goes down to here, and then when it's like here, I guess we can simply output priority, filter out the ice cubes, set that the other way, and those are gonna get thrown out into space. So then we should just get the calcite into these. We should keep them going. And then we need to reattach the iron belt to where it needs to go. So this goes out this way. And you're going to come up here and around here. And over to here, and then probably just up into there. Is that right? This looks like an input belt. Yes, at the input belt. Alright, so that is that. Meanwhile, down here, our fuel production has happened. And it looks like we are also producing some ammo. So that's all going well. I think a bunch of belts just got added. Okay, what is this loop here? What are you doing? Okay, you're just storing that stuff up. Probably fine. Although we might need to rework that a little bit. Get more of this. And we're almost at the point where this stuff can get built. Let's see here. We have plenty of foundries available on planet to build this. Okay, then the last thing we need to do is we need to bring the steel up. So this is the steel belt, I think, because it just goes into there. So we just have you come down around this way, and okay, that's actually a bit awkward because that's where this belt is. So you are going to have to go across here and do something like that before going out into space. And then this belt just goes into there. Take all that back, and that should be steel done. Okay, so this is a whole bunch of carbonic asteroids looping around there. That might wind up being an issue. So we might need to just not have this work this way. We might need to have this just do outputs to either side so that we don't get just one type of asteroid looping around in there. Okay, and then the input priority there might actually also break things. It's hard to say. I don't know what this belt is doing. You will dismantle it. Okay, more foundations. Please say we're almost there. So how's the grid? The grid is still actually totally comfortable, at least at rest. Now once these guys boot up, it's gonna go crazy. And then we're gonna need all the solar panels in the world, but at least we'll have the space to place a whole bunch of solar panels. Rocket fuel productivity, by the way, up to 95%. That's pretty good. Speaking of which, go back to Vulcanus. Alright, now we have the opposite problem. Now we have 1 billion sulfur, no carbon. We are still outputting carbon. But let's see here. Okay, what if we just stop doing that filter and wait, no, you would have to be like that. That was intentional. I remember that. Alright, so now we have more carbon going out. And the sulfur is starting to backlog, but that's probably fine. We can probably just deal with that down on the planet. So we just need to, like, somehow make sure that this dumps extra stuff if it gets it. Okay, crazy stuff continues to happen back on Novice. And we're still short on blue circuits. Cannot wait to have the ability to expand that easily. For now, we're very much reliant on all this stuff, which is quite the pain. Alright, has anything gone down to here yet? Theoretically, icy asteroids or metal asteroids should get down here and then loop around successfully, although these crushers haven't been built, so that's actually the limiting factor at this point. We have 10 available on planet, and those can theoretically be sent up at any point. Okay, I might need to make these guys efficiency modules in order to not absolutely kill the power demand. Yeah, we're probably gonna have to do that in order to not kill the power demand. Also, the increased speed might let us get by with slightly fewer machines. Who can say? Ammunition production is going well. The fact that we do have asteroids going along here is quite useful. Alright, we just launched up something. I can't see what it was. But we're spending up more foundations there. Sending up more foundations. Vulcanus support is continuing to do its thing. So how is this going? Are we making any progress at all towards making rocket fuel over here? So the rocket fuel production is somewhere in this whole chain. And it doesn't look like we're getting anywhere. So we just take that. All the coal is just going into there. We need so much more carbon in this system. And I mean, we are sending out some. Okay, but now we have this problem where it's all oxide asteroids. And that's no good. So, we have these guys both set to recycle the metallic asteroids. So let's set you two to recycle oxide asteroids so that we can have 2 of each. And hopefully that will get this running better. Alright, it does look like it's doing something. Looks like it is doing something. Okay, over here on Novice, we actually are basically at the point where we have enough foundations to build this entire thing if we wanted to. If we had the launch capacity for it, then we could do that. This needs to all be filled in, as does all of that area. And probably better fill in that area as well, just to be sure. That's not that much foundation anyways. Okay, let's deconstruct that corner, since we don't need it. And deconstruct this corner as well. Just get some more of this stuff being built up. Alright. That's pretty good. I'm really waiting on them to send up the crushers. But they seem to be having fun sending up foundation. If we can get the crushers, then we can just craft some foundations up there. And yeah, actually, okay, let's set you off automatic requests. And how do I just... There's no way to manually request here? It's annoying. Alright, so we are just going to have you grab some crushers. And that should be good. Clipper rocket is not ready. Okay. Just automatically launched, I guess. Alright, I didn't really expect it to automatically launch the instant it was full, but I guess that's fine. Alright, so then that's going up, and we're building another rocket of crushers. And now, if we go up here, so these guys can make the ice. These guys are making some of the ore. And it seems like it's working. See, as a platform needs what you filled it up with, it'll auto-launch to it. Yeah, I think I'd learned that at some point, and then I just sort of forgot about it. Certainly not going to complain. Alright, so now these guys can fill up with ore. And then we need some oxide asteroids to get down here to make the calcite with. Although I don't know how well that is going to go. Because we don't seem to have many of those just sitting around. Ooh, so they come in, they have to sort of get through a bit of a gauntlet in order to get anywhere. So So, like, you're going to go this way to feed the engines. Speaking of the engines, how's ammo? Ammo is fine. We might actually... Alright, we might do one of these somewhat ambitious things. So you start moving. You start moving just so that we can find some asteroids to shoot at. Because I believe at this point we have almost everything we need to get things started except for the asteroids. So if we can just get some asteroids showing up at faster speed, then that would be very convenient. Alright, we're going to wait until we see like a couple of the big asteroids, and then we're going to turn around and head right back to Novice. Because we are not anywhere near ready for like an extended trip yet. And yeah, power is an issue. Alright, we're starting to see some of the big asteroids spawn in. Give it just like another second, and then back to Novice. Alright, so hopefully we'll make it back safely. And okay, the thrusters are actually not running fully. Although they are mostly running fully, at least. Alright, so yeah, now we have this. And we're actually producing steel. I believe the copper is a bit stuck at the moment because that belt hasn't been placed. Should be fine once we get back to Novice. So yeah, we're producing steel now. And that should allow us to make some foundations up here and then be less reliant on constantly launching more. Alright, almost back to Novice, although the thrusters seem like they're having difficulties, although maybe that's just how the cycling works. It's hard to tell, really. Also, probably the power issues are not helping. Because currently... Yeah, so currently these guys are demanding all sorts of power, which they can't handle. Alright, so we're back to Novice. And hopefully we can get some quick launches in the meantime. Okay, we can stop requesting you so that we can get more of these guys launching. Like, there's some belts going up. That's pretty neat. Alright. So the steel is starting to output. We might run into a balancing issue here. Where we need to just like throw away some of the extra copper, or potentially throw away some of the extra iron. But neither of those should be very difficult to set up. Alright, so yeah, now we're doing this, producing copper plates, copper wire, and foundations. Alright, so that is filling up. It's going to take forever because we don't have power, but it should get there eventually. I need to deconstruct those guys over there. That's just going to be confusing. Okay. So now that this is all up and running, I believe the only thing we have left to do is just fill this with absolutely as much solar panels as possible. So currently, yeah, we need like an insane amount of solar panels. So fortunately we have a ton of space now that we took some of that extra stuff out. So let's build some of the panels in here. And there we go. And we are seeing some of these guys get produced on site. It's not exactly fast, but it is happening. So back here we're still item ingredient shortage on the copper. So this row of belts is backed up because of the iron. Or actually we need to do that, send you over to there, and then dismantle all of that so that this can be an excess output. So output priority will be right. So that should keep the copper flowing even when there's a ton of iron in the way. And let's just get a third bulk inserter here, just in case we need to keep up with all that. Now, I'm pretty sure I did the math last time to make sure that the numbers were theoretically correct if we had enough of these. Which currently stationary seems like we don't. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to fix. Okay, now this one is just doing the iron. All this stuff up here is just doing copper. So do we need to actually balance these at all to make sure that these ones up here get access to the same things? Actually, what we can do is just like put some long-handled inserters onto there so that if that belt is getting prioritized, we can grab some of it for these guys. Alright, so this is all going quite smoothly. And okay, I just realized an actual thing that I want to keep in mind. So we can be more efficient if we dismantle you, and then this one is the excess iron output, because this is the part of the belt which comes from both iron and copper. So then this is input priority left. So now we'll only get rid of excess. So this will just not run then if we have too much iron and not enough copper. So that should work. Alright, so that is all set up. This is mostly slowing down at this point, it looks like. Alright, so the whole steel production is going perfectly. Point where it's backlogged, and now shouldn't be doing all that much stuff with power demand, at least comparatively speaking. The foundries are the biggest draw, but only if they're actually running. And then meanwhile we have the copper going up here. And we're only running like a tiny proportion of these copper machines, which pretty sure is just because of the supply of asteroids. I would assume that that's just an asteroid supply problem. Okay, power demand is fluctuating, probably because these are sometimes on and sometimes not. Okay, we need to set you back to automatic request mode so that that can happen faster. And we are making good progress here. I mean, this platform is almost a thing. Okay, back on Vulcanus. We still have a slow trickle of coal showing up, which I don't know where all that coal is going to go, but it's going to do something. Okay, what's going on? What is this? Okay, so that's just normal. That's just a regular old attack getting repelled. Put in a couple more lasers. Oh, a novice is missing lasers? Okay, that's actually very bad. Where do we make the lasers again? We make the lasers here. And they are short on steel. That makes a lot of sense, considering we're using all of our steel for foundation production. So yeah, now we're actually having a problem. Because now when lasers get destroyed, we can't do anything with it. So we're gonna need to figure out how to stop that. I think we just have to turn this one off, because this is probably the steel belt. Gosh, it's so slow. Yeah, so this is the steel belt, which ultimately leads down to the laser production. So if we disconnect you, then this steel can get through there. And hopefully that will be good enough. Meanwhile, up here we are going strong on the building. We have a good solid amount of solar panels up now. And we actually have a proper ammunition backlog, which I think means let's send this out, because we have the ability to produce foundations on site. So if we just have you go to Gleba, and then let's just add weight conditions so you don't do anything normally. Alright, so you are just loading up the last couple of rockets, and now we're off. We have a bit of an ammunition backup, so that should be fine. If we can make a significant trip to pick up asteroids and not get obliterated, which might happen, but I think we should be fine. So if we can survive this trip to Gleba and back, we should be able to use that to produce a whole bunch of foundation, and then we should be able to just build, you know, self build this factory up and running, and that would be incredibly handy. So we have 19 spare solar panels on board, which is not that many, but it's something at least. We have a backlog of steel. So we're just waiting on iron. Okay, oh, this I need to set up so that it's output priority left, so that the iron actually properly backlogs all the way. And apparently that's going to use the other side of the belt, which is fine by me. Alright, so then that is producing our copper, which is producing our copper wire. And meantime, we haven't taken any damage. We still have plenty of ammunition, and the backlog is building up more as we get the resources to craft stuff. Alright. And this is definitely outputting some. So these guys are still fluctuating between low power and item ingredient shortages and all those usual problems. So we need more copper. We need more metallic asteroids, really, is the ultimate thing that we're dealing with right now. And I don't know, I think the low power is preventing us from grabbing everything. Yeah, so we need more power to grab all the asteroid chunks fast enough, I think. I think that's part of the issue. Which means we just sort of have to stay the course and do what we're doing. Down to 18 solar panels, which means we got enough to build one. Ammunition still going fine. We have all of these guys out here, which we still need to launch up the asteroid collectors and everything for. We're down to 2,086 demand remaining. Slowly but surely, this thing is constructing itself. Okay, so this is fine. I got a little bit worried when I saw that mixed belt, but that's intentional. It just gets filtered later on. These mixed belts up here get filtered. And we don't need any of the excess iron. We really need more copper. We have a lot of these carbon asteroids right now, and not many metal asteroids. And these guys need more power in order to function properly. Okay. Well, this is actually going quite well. So we have a lot of asteroid chunks. These are going to get recycled into metallic asteroids eventually. It's just going to take a while. And how is this going? Down to 2,067 demand, which means we are making progress. Okay, let's turn around and head back to Novice at this point. Just because we need to be there in order to take advantage of all this stuff that we have, which we might as well. Okay, back on Vulcanus support. We did run into the problem of too much sulfur. So we need to make sure that that doesn't happen. So we need to just have a way of dumping some sulfur into lava if we get too much of it. So, wait, no, we don't need that. What we need is we do need the access to the drone port for information about what's in the drone network. So we're going to put you in, and we're going to get a decider combinator, which I do not know if I have here. Actually, we don't need a decider combinator, do we? If we just connect to you directly, enable, disable, if sulfur is greater than 150, and then your request is going to be sulfur. So currently, alright, that might work. And then we just need to dump you into the lava. Alright, how do you get into the lava pool properly? Like, is that good enough placement? It's hard to tell where exactly the tiles end when it's like this. Alright, so we just need you to get placed. Oh, and we need you to get powered. Alright, so that is that. Power pole showing up. And yeah, so this destroys a whole bunch of sulfur. And then sulfur is now down to 140, so it's disabled. And hopefully that works. Okay, an entity was destroyed up here. Okay, that's not good. So we did end up running out of ammunition. Probably because of the electricity consumption. So we're just gonna have to hope that nothing absolutely critical gets destroyed by the time we make it back, which we are almost there. So hopefully it's fine. And yeah, we have plenty of iron here. It's just the electricity consumption preventing us from crafting fast enough. Alright, we're basically home free at this point. And just need to make sure that we don't instantly turn around. Yeah, we're good. Alright, so we need all sorts of additional stuff. There's going to be more foundations on the way up. And an entire rocket for one repair pack. Feels bad. Okay, so speaking of novice, you were having your laser problem earlier, and you are getting the occasional steel plate through to here. So hopefully that is fine. Hopefully the laser production can get back up to acceptable numbers, and then we'll be good to go. So meanwhile, up here we have like basically all carbonic asteroids. And we just need to convert them down. And how's powered looking? The foundries are going crazy again. So we need way more power. But we do have a decent chunk of asteroids now, so this should just continue to break these carbonic asteroids down to metallic ones and use them to keep making foundations. Which it looks like we have most of these running on low power mode. So that's cool. Back to Novice, and we are launching all sorts of foundations from here as well. Okay, so our laser turrets, they need a lot of steel, and they're not really getting all that much. Alright, we might need to cut this off, because this does eventually trickle down to the steel production. We might need to do that. Alright, we are getting more solar panels in. So that's another batch of 50, and bam. Additional power just like that. And really what I think we need to do is I think we might need to work out how to actually do nuclear power, because this is going to take a lot of solar panels to do anything at all. And space is quite expensive up in space, ironically. So, our next thing is going to be go back to Vulcanus. And over here, you are still very much struggling to get coal. Alright, we did actually, so we are working slowly but surely. We just had some rocket fuel done there. Alright, so let's take... So the thing we need is rocket fuel. Novice has plenty of rocket fuel, right? You've got... Yeah, you've got tons. Alright, let's take the transport platform and... You've got so much junk in you. You send that down. And what else do we not really need you to be carrying? That's probably fine. Let's get rid of all those lubricant barrels, though. Don't need those. Alright, let's have you load up on... How much rocket fuel can we do? 100 per rocket? So let's get, like, 200 rocket fuel sent up to here. And then we can just send that over to Vulcanus directly. And then we should get at least a bit of rocket launches going that way. How much rocket fuel does it take to launch one rocket? It's like 0.5 per second for like a lot of seconds. Okay, looks like each one of these is like 1. So it's like 100 rocket fuel for one rocket, probably something like that. Alright, so we're filling up you. We're also filling up you. Oh, it's 2% per. God, I don't know why I thought it was 1%. So that's even better. So this should give us 200 rocket fuel, should give us like 4 rocket launches, which is... And it's not great, is it? But it's something at least. Okay. So I think we want this to actually just be what Vulcanus support does. So you can do cargo on rocket fuel is greater than 199. And then we're just gonna set you to have a request for rocket fuel 200 from Novice. Alright, so now while you're making your trips, you will bring rocket fuel back every so often. And that should be nice. Alright, so you have all this. So now you can go to Vulcanus. And we want you to just never automatically go. So there we go. Send you over. And on Vulcanus, we just go over to here and tell you to request 200 rocket fuel. There we go. So this is still regularly disposing of that. How much sulfur do we have? Somewhere in the 150 range, unsurprisingly. Alright. So over here on the Foundation Crafter, the solar panels are slowly expanding. And these guys, the recyclers are working. So it's doing its thing eventually. It's just going to take absolutely ages to get anywhere, which is to be expected. Alright, so once the transport platform gets back to Vulcanus, then hopefully this can start working again. And then we're just going to need some way of getting even more carbon there. Alright, so if carbon is the limiting factor, then maybe we swap like one of these guys back to default. Although, actually the limiting factor is asteroids at this point. Yeah, okay, so the limiting factor here is asteroids. So, in that case, you should probably start moving somewhere. Alright, yeah, you start moving back to Novice, and that should let you fill up on asteroids and get this whole thing functional. The Vulcanus support is not exactly my best designed system ever, but it has power, so that's something it has over this one. Still importing more solar panels, that's a good sign. Alright, so now we have more production than satisfaction, so that's good. It's mostly just because this is going very slowly. So I think what that means is we need more of these guys. So let's just copy paste that down. And hopefully that will speed things up a lot. Because we do need to actually crunch down all the asteroids fast enough. Okay, so the ammunition is restockpiling slowly but surely. Yeah, I wonder if this just isn't enough ammunition, period, for this. I hope we don't need more, because that would be annoying, but we very much might. Alright, so the transport platform is almost back to Vulcanus. And do these guys have a belt for the solid fuel? Yes, I think that's probably this ridiculous belt here. Yes, so we need to get a requester chest, which feeds solid fuel down to there. Like that. And I don't know how they're taking that from logistics storage. So somewhere up here we had some solid fuel in logistics storage, I guess. Which does mean that this can start working now. So I don't know where that came from. It's nice to have it. I suspect it's very much temporary. Yep, now that's back down to 0. Okay, so transport platform. Oh no, that was the transport platform's supply. Okay, so you've done your thing. Now you can just go back to novice. Although actually you do have a supply of carbon, so we could do something with that. But at any rate, this is now doing its thing. And we have rocket fuel ready for a couple of rockets once the Vulcanist support platform comes back. Okay, so this is an issue. We need to fix this. So you need to be carbon only to this side. Otherwise you're going to get stuck. And then we need to like rebuild you somehow. So that you don't get stuck with sulfur in the wrong belt. Alright, so that failed again. You need to be carbon only out to that side. Then we dismantle all of you, and that goes forwards. Alright. So now we're having issues again. These filters don't... They often seem to just decide to not work. So the problem is we have carbon on this little segment. So we need to take you out. Get you filtered back up again. And then get you out and get you filtered back up again. And now I think this is mostly working. Alright, yeah, so now that's doing something again. Alright, so that's good. So back over here, ammunition supply is backing up a little bit more. Power is good as long as the foundries don't do anything crazy. And we're mostly out of asteroids now. Alright, so that is fine. Losing some random junk on Novice. We are actually falling further behind in our lack of laser turrets, which is quite disconcerting. How's this going? We're not even producing that many platform foundations. Alright, so this just isn't getting very many steel plates at all. Are we having an iron ore shortage? Yes, but why? Okay, no, so that's another output. Alright, so somewhere along here, this iron ore train is filling up and is returning back. This iron ore train is filling up and will be returning back shortly. Okay, so I guess it was just a weird spot where both of the trains were filling up simultaneously. Still don't love the fact that now we're 8 laser turrets down. So where do these keep getting destroyed? Just like in the walls? Just normal circumstances? It's pretty bad. Pretty bad indeed. Alright, so we need to figure out what to do about that. So you're doing your whole thing. You guys up here are making a bunch of plates, as you should be. And do we need to turn this off? I think we do, unfortunately. I mean, we have the production in space, so it's not that big of a deal. We just deactivate you, send as much steel plates as we can onto other things. Although the low density structures might also be a steel plate problem. Alright, so Vulcanist support is here. It is theoretically capable of being filled with rocket fuel. And it's also, more importantly, finally delivering some of this stuff over to here. So that should be a supply of tungsten plates, maybe? Does this have any tungsten plates? No, it does not. Okay, we're still taking attrition on Novice. Still not going great. But at least we are unloading all this stuff. And alright, we haven't gotten any of the rocket fuel delivered. But it should just be a matter of if we just turn you off for a bit, just so that Vulcanist can get the priority of the rocket launches, which currently are the major limiting factor. Yeah, so now we're loading you up, and we can load you up, and then we'll send it off back to Vulcanist. Alright, you need to send cliff explosives down as well. I could have sworn I had that set up. Oh, I didn't. Okay, let's get cliff explosives set up then. So you can request like 40 of those. And what else does this guy have? I think we're pretty much good other than that, maybe? I'm pretty sure most of these things are set up to be deployed. And Novice just already has a supply of them. Like, yeah, we have foundries, we have underground belts, we've got all the rest of this stuff. Alright, so this... I don't know what's happened with that. We were definitely launching some of those up. And now they're nowhere to... Now it seems to have just vanished. We launched 200 rocket fuel up. And now we just don't have any. Okay, we have it listed as 100 on the way. Oh, I see. It's this annoying thing. Maybe? Maybe we have to do something like that? I don't know where our rocket fuel all went. Seems like all of our rocket fuel just mysteriously vanished. Okay. It's still showing it as on the way. There, that's it launching there. Does the planet hub request rocket fuel? No, it doesn't. I checked. I think it... Yeah, so there's no rocket fuel. Oh, wait. There was a slight flicker of a rocket fuel demand in there for some reason. What's going on with that? This circuit network is doing weird stuff now. Okay, I figured it out. So occasionally we wind up with negative rocket fuel in the network somehow, and it requests like 2. But theoretically that shouldn't impact this that much. I don't know, we're going to send you back to Vulcanus and worry about that whole thing later. We're still very much net negative on the laser turrets, which is absolutely terrifying. Like, that is the way that you spiral out of control and get completely obliterated by biters. So our steel supply is looking a lot better now. So hopefully that is fine. Alright, some of these guys which are Mark 1 belts need to just... You just need to become faster belts, just so that it doesn't look terrible if nothing else. Alright, so you just keep on going. And then you go underground there. And up this way, and then past this point you're definitely not belt speed limited. Although actually maybe you are. Maybe now that the other stuff has been upgraded, if we just go up to there. Alright. I'm fine with this being red belts, I just don't want it to be yellow belts. Alright, so then that goes across there. And then hopefully at that point we'll be fine. We're losing even more laser turrets as we speak. But now we have more steel coming down to here. And hopefully that is enough. Hopefully that's enough. Belt is moving pretty fast now, as far as those things are concerned. And now we're down to only 7 laser turrets short. So that's pretty neat, I would say. Alright, so this has broken again. Wonderful. Okay, you just need... We need to just do this a slightly less efficient way, so we just need this belt to come down here and just... not that belt. We just need that to go down there and then just deposit any extras off the side of the ship rather than trying to be all fancy with controlling it the other way. So now we might be slightly less efficient, but we're never going to run out. We're never going to have those problems again, which means that this can start running again. Novice laser turrets are finally catching back up to where they need to be. And there we go. We have plenty of steel, and now this can just make laser turrets. Alright. Crisis averted. Our defenses should be back. And then this can set you back up to request stuff again. And we go back down to Novice. And this is doing its little thing. Over on Vulcanus, we have multiple of these guys prepared. Then this one just doesn't have access to this belt. So it's not going to be ready until we get plastic, which is a whole other thing. So the plastic supply is going to be a whole separate issue that we're going to need to address. Okay, so where's the... You're the guy that takes in the carbon, right? Let's set that even higher, just so that we have as much carbon as possible for this when it needs to arrive. Alright, back over on Vulcanus. All is very quiet. Nothing is running, because we can't get stuff off the planet fast enough. We'll just have to see what happens when the Vulcanus support gets back. Over here, we're doing a thing. We are almost at enough foundations to construct what we have currently. And we actually just need a lot of belts and stuff for that. So you are sending up belts. You're sending up solar panels. You're going to be sending up yet more foundations. Alright, the biters are doing their thing. Being biters. But now we have laser turret production, so that's not a crisis anymore. In fact, it should be mostly fine. Alright, then we launch that stuff up. And Vulcanus support is almost over Vulcanus. And so we can launch out all of that carbon. And the sulfur is probably going to be following it up. I don't know what all this calcite is doing. Oh, right, the calcite is meant to be sent back to Novice. Do I even have that set? Yes, I do. We just have plenty there already. Alright, so we are now launching rockets from Vulcanus up to this, and that's filling up the turbo transport belts. And the tungsten plates are really the thing which we need to get, because that is what we need to get our artillery turned on. We need a couple more guns and a huge amount of ammo. We're going to need so much artillery ammo to clear out all of these biters. Which means that this is going to have to work quite well. So that is launching up. We've got a good solid amount of rocket fuel backlogged, but probably not enough. We are making coal again, but probably not enough of that either. We really need to just, like, I guess just walk in a direction until we find another coal patch, which is going to be absolutely awful with the demolishers, but we might just have to do that, or find some other way. I don't know, maybe there's some other way of doing that I'm not thinking of. Now, setting up a dedicated something that just produces carbon and sulfur would probably help. So we wouldn't need that much to just, like, constantly throw coal down to Vulcanus. but we would need a bit, and currently we're very, very limited on what we're capable of doing. Okay, now laser turrets are green circuit limited again, so the natural order is reestablished. We are short of green circuits, as always. Okay, so this is all doing its thing. Making a whole bunch of steel. Alright, did we just get a delivery of gun turrets? Yes, I think we did. We're only 257 foundations short of being done with this. That's really not that many. Now we only have 12 on planet. So, I don't know. The steel situation is still actually not ideal. But, actually, how's power going? Okay, great. Power on Novice is not enough. Of course it isn't. So over here, these guys don't have enough rocket fuel because we're filling this back up. Okay, I think what we need to do is just need to move that over to there so that running our power on Novice is the first priority. And apparently that's just a slight drone-covered dead zone. So let's get that in. Alright, so now our rocket fuel will primarily go to feeding these turbines, which hopefully will help get the power situation resolved a little bit. So that's going. And these guys just need to heat up enough to get all these running, and it looks like that is happening. Alright, so steam turbines are a go. And that's just gonna propagate over to here eventually. Pretty sure I did the math right for these guys to all run. That should provide enough power to keep us from constantly dying every night. Okay, back up here. And foundations have just been delivered. And I mean, we're practically there at this point. In terms of the foundations for what we have. We're going to need more foundations for the power, but we can also fill in some of this existing space with solar panels now that we know it's basically done. So like we can get them into there, we can squeeze them into here. Pop like 1 or 2 in these areas. Every little bit counts. Fit some in there. Let's not go crooked there. Let's fit some into that area and that area. And get some back here. Alright. I wish there was a way of showing like max power demand in here, like if all the machines are running. Like Satisfactory has that and it's very convenient. It's a bit hard to tell in this game though how much power you could conceivably need. Alright, so Vulcanist support is still going. We have another rocket finished here. But ever had the idea of using accumulators on the space platform? I don't know. I guess. But the thing is, we want this to be running constantly. So we want this to be running constantly, so like so that we can get a max output of those. So like the accumulators would be convenient, but I don't know how much good they would ultimately do for like our ideal design of this. Yeah, and I obviously have accumulators down on like novice and everything. But in space where there's no nighttime, it doesn't really seem necessary. Okay, this power. We've managed to get it up to full. So that's good. And then if this is past the steam turbines, I guess we can just not limit that. If the spike usage of power can be caught by the accumulators, I guess, but I mean, I want it to be running at full capacity all the time, though, is the thing. So I don't, again, I'm not entirely sure there would be like spike usage of power on the space platform if it's doing what it's supposed to be doing and running constantly. Alright, stuff is happening on novice as usual. Alright, how is this going? So this is almost done with what we have. We just need a couple extra foundations. Okay, so let's send this out so that it can craft its own last couple of foundations. The power situation should be better than it was last time, in theory. But I'm still going to be a bit careful. Yeah, laser turrets on the platform I would definitely have accumulators for, but I'm using gun turrets, so it shouldn't really be an issue. Okay, so what is this happening on novice? It's just more stuff out there and up here. Okay, that's a bit spooky because technically there is a slight coverage gap in that area. So we might have to do something about that. So we grab, where's our laser wall blueprint? And we're just gonna expand you out this way. And I doubt we have the laser turrets for this. But we can at least get the blueprints placed. Alright, so we do something like that. And then up to there. And then we just sort of cover that in. And now we just need to get drone coverage over to here. And power coverage, for that matter. So that goes around there. That goes into there. And that can all get built up. Alright, so that drone port is in and powered, so now we just need to keep this running up that way. Get you powered up. And then it looks like that would be the last one we need. So you powered up to there. And that should be good to go. Alright, so yeah, now that the steam turbines are back online to take the edge off of the night, we're doing fine. And now this all gets built and should keep us nice and secure from the biters. Alright, so back over on Vulcanus, we are once again out of rocket fuel. And there's nowhere near enough coal going through to get that proper. So I guess you can head back to Novice. And we will hopefully load up with enough rocket fuel to get you going. Although I don't know how many stacks we're going to need. So let's get you set to like 400 to 600 or something. And I don't know how much rocket fuel we have back here on Novice. You can actually check. We have 358 spare rocket fuel on Novice. We can also send the transport platform back to Vulcanus just for that little bit of extra support. So that's all set up. Foundation Crafter, meanwhile, is... Okay, it made it to Gleba. But it seems to have run a bit low on ammunition in the process. But the good news is that we've crafted up all of the stuff that we need here. Does this have anything on board? No. I think Gleba is probably just working along on its own at this point. Alright. So now the question is, will our ammo supplies go up or down? Looks like it's the power demand, so we're once again up at like 160-ish. And if we go back a bunch of hours, yeah, so 160-ish is how much power we're going to need to get this going. So yeah, currently we're at peak production. And now we have extra foundations. And we left a hole somewhere. What you need... Oh, I see. So these go all the way down to here, which they can't do. So we need to take you out and leave a slight gap. Alright, now why is that a problem? So you're not being dismantled for some reason. Because... Oh, because you're the only thing connecting this section up? Well, that's kind of absurd. Like, I want to dismantle that and then connect that in so that this functions. But you just won't let me do that? Okay, what if I bring you over to there? And now I try to dismantle you. Alright. If you are... How do I get this to do what I want it to do? This is annoying. This is very annoying. So we need this segment to have access to the outside from some other direction. Which... it seems like... Okay, so if we just clear all that stuff out, and then dismantle everything there that we're allowed to. How do we do this? Yeah, so the problem is that it is built this in the wrong order, and now we're just sort of soft locked like this. How do I fix this? So it should be, we need this segment here connected up, this back segment here. Maybe we just have to dismantle it and rebuild it. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking at this point. We just need to cut you, delete you, and delete all of you. And then if I do a paste and I paste you back in like that, and you guys cannot exist, and then that goes in. Alright, we got there. Alright, so that is that. Problem solved. Fortunately, dismantling and rebuilding on a space platform is relatively easy. So that is that. Now, we still need... So now we need the ammo on the right side to fill up, because we built so much stuff over here that it's all just draining back to fill these new machines down there. Which is a bit of an unintended side effect. And it's probably not safe to leave here until we do that. We also have a bit of a backlog here. What are you guys doing? Oh, this ice bit here is backlogged, and there's another ice here which wants to go but can't because that's backlogged. Alright, so we need to solve that. And how do we solve that? We need to just have like a way around. So if you are output priority right, but then you're still willing to just go forwards, and then that should work. Now it isn't working because why not? Why are you not working now? Oh, because that belt hasn't been placed. Right. Okay, so let's see if we can just, like, shave a belt off of somewhere else. Yeah, so now we don't have enough belts to build that, which... Fortunately, we have all this random junk over here, which is just like a bunch of belts that do nothing. So we can take that out, and now I believe we are functional again. Yeah, looks like we're functional again. Although we might have to do some similar work with the iron asteroids. Who knows? Realistically, we're probably just not going to have an issue with too many iron asteroids. And if we do, then I guess that'll just be a win. Alright, so now this is doing its thing again. And the ammunition production is a bit slow because of how much of the asteroids get sent over this way. How far is this backlogged? It only goes out to there. Yeah, I think that platform is just sort of stranded on Gleba for a little while. It should get there eventually, but Alright. Meanwhile, over on Vulcanus, this guy has a rocket, and we really just need to get this set up properly. So this belt here, I don't even know what that belt is, but you can just go underground for a bit so that this can then fill you up with low density structures so that we can use both things. We have a lot of low density structures, which is good. We don't have any low density structure production functional currently because we don't have plastic, which is bad. The transport platform is returning to Vulcanus with a whole lot of stuff. We might need to... Okay, no, we can drop some of this stuff like the pipes off to save space in here. We shouldn't need to have like significantly more storage space on that. Meanwhile, ammunition production is actually not going that bad. Shouldn't be that much longer before we can bring this back to Novice. And you have several hundred of these guys set up. So yeah, this is functioning to make space platform foundations in a way which isn't reliant on Novice for supplies and input, which means we should be able to use this to help make future space platforms, and we might even... Yeah, we might need to expand this one itself. We've got 44 solar panels, so let's actually just use those real quick. This guy can go in here. We're not going to overwrite anything, so I'm not going to hold shift, and I'm just going to... Alright, I have to hold shift, but not control, right? So I place that, and then all the empty space gets taken up with solar panels, and that area is going to need to be filled in. Alright, and now we are back to being 800 some rockets short. So that is fine. We can just get you producing stuff. So the iron backlog is not a major issue because of that. The copper backlog is going up this way and is just instantly turning into foundations, getting used for crafting. Ammunition is almost at the point where I'm comfortable sending this back to Novice. And the resources are also low enough that we're probably going to need to do that sometime soon to keep it going. Alright, mining productivity 20 billion has been finished. Wonderful. Let's get plastic productivity. And what else is there? Actually, asteroid productivity could be quite useful. Let's do asteroid productivity as our next priority. And let's see if that can actually work, or if we're missing some type of science that we need. Looks like it's cratering significantly. Why is that? And also, why are things continuing to go so badly on Novice? Our annoying walls here are apparently just not deep enough, maybe? So let's just copy you. Okay, apparently there's also just like a hole in them somewhere in here. So let's take our blueprint and... Yeah, so these actually this is actually made of like 2 segments that don't line up properly. So we're going to need to just do something like that to fill in that area. And then we just copy this, paste it there, and hopefully that will help. Although we're pushing out of drone range again, because of course we are, which means we need to put a drone port right there next to where everything keeps getting blown up. Oh, we need artillery. We need artillery so badly. Alright, we're back here. We've sent our rockets down, and now this is short of blue circuits. Blue circuits need red circuits, which need plastic. So that's gonna be a whole thing. Yeah, we need to add a whole bunch of stuff to this to get carbon going better. Okay, so first off, let's set the amount of calcite we request dramatically down to get space. And we can do the same thing with the ice cubes, since we don't really need that many of those. So you can set down to like 100. And the iron ore, I don't think we even need anymore. So let's just drop that down. Let's drop down a bunch of ice cubes, which we don't necessarily need at the moment. Alright, so now we have space in here for more carbon. And we have plenty of the right type of asteroid. We just are output full there because this is doing something utterly unfathomable again. Oh, it's right, okay. It's doing the thing where it wants to send more carbon down this way, but it can't. Okay. So we don't need all these ice cube productions, probably. And we might be able to... Yeah, so we don't need all these ice cube productions, so we can set these guys over to make carbon. And then these need to be set appropriately. And then this area just needs to get dismantled and then rebuilt, and then probably dismantled again and rebuilt. And there's still one more ice cube on here, which let's just precision dismantle that. So this then needs to be set to be carbon. And, I don't know, some large number. Alright, so that should be better at supplying the carbon. Now, I don't know if we're going to have enough sulfur for this. Nah, what have I done? Alright, so that is that. And then now we have tons of carbon up here. If we stop down to here, we have... Okay, we probably just need a higher demand. We might need cargo landing pads attached to this, or what are those things called? Cargo bays. We might need cargo bays attached to this so that we can get more landing fast. So let's get that built in, just so that it has it. And then you're set to 500, you're set to like 200. Both of those should be well more than what we actually need. We have plenty of drones for it. So now this goes over to here, and the carbon goes down. Alright, so that is getting this going at an actually reasonable rate, almost. Although the sulfur might now be the limiting factor again, especially with this guy not working, because why would it? Okay, let's take this belt out since it's not doing anything and use that extra space. So, if we dismantle this and just try to start from scratch, what is our goal? Our goal is to get some carbon over there, but then a lot of stuff over to the other side. So if we do this and then have like you, and then have you filtering your carbon. Okay, so now we just get sulfur in here, and then that sticks. But if we then do that, maybe that will work. No, it definitely doesn't. But what if you go in? Alright, now that seems to be working more to get more sulfur out. And let's paste you across to make sulfur, because we've got all these guys making just carbon now. So now we go down to Vulcanus. We are doing this thing. Let's get you set up to 500, and you... Okay, so the excess sulfur would be sent over here if we had any. Let's set that to like... sulfur is greater than 300 or something. Then we go down to here. Where are you? You are going to request like 300 sulfur and like oh boy, what's going on? What is that? What is that? Something horrible is happening on Novice. We just lost like 26 drones. And it seems like they were repairing these walls, which is just sort of the hazard of having them, I think. Didn't ultimately turn out all that bad. Okay, that's fine. Alright, so back up to here. We are throwing as much carbon down as we can, and now we're short on carbonic asteroids again, because of course we are. This never ceases to be a problem. Alright, so we need you. So we need this decider combinator to now have this guy do its thing every so often. So if you find that carbonic asteroid chunks are less than, let's go like 20, then you are going to output some generic symbol, which can be that, and then that symbol will be connected up to here, and add interrupt low asteroid supply, which will be conditions circuit condition, low battery equals 1, and then your target will be to just run to novice. And then wait there for like 0 seconds. Alright. So now that we have that, that should be like immediately active, right? Did we set that up right? No battery equals 1. There is no. Okay, looks like we set it up right, but it's not doing anything. So we're definitely triggering the symbol. You are just waiting in orbit. Maybe we need to allow interrupting other interrupts. And not allow unload there, maybe. Conditions, circuits. Let's just have you like greater than 0, maybe. Alright, why are you not going anywhere? Why are you not going anywhere? We really need you to do something now. Alright, what on earth is going on? Why are we not doing anything at all? So you definitely have the signal. Conditions are met. You know, we'll activate and append all the targets to the schedule as temporary stops. Can I trigger while another interrupt is being executed? Okay. I mean, maybe... Maybe we can just do this with... Or circuit condition... Low battery greater than 0. Alright. So, the way the internet works is not super convenient, actually. I want it to drop whatever it's doing and leave, which I guess we just have to do the circuit condition for. So, yeah, that interrupt can be removed, that temporary stop can be removed. So now you are going to be doing that. Foundation Crafter should be able to make the run back to Novice at this point. So you go do that. Gleba support is just doing its thing as it always has been. And it's heading off to Gleba. That's fine. Testing platform is sitting boringly in orbit of Novice doing nothing. Transport platform is currently in orbit of Vulcanus and not really able to meaningfully help. You can head back to Novice as well, because when you do become able to help, it'll be by picking stuff up off of Novice, probably. Alright, so this is all going. Asteroid productivity. If there were to be a problem with asteroid productivity... Okay, well, one thing is that this spoilage is becoming a bit of an issue. So you are going to be set to filter spoilage out into an active provider chest, probably. it shouldn't really make much of a difference. Yeah, let's just do passive provider, because we have a thing that demands like 1 trillion spoilage at all times. So that should be fine. Now these guys don't seem to pass the spoilage along though. How did this guy get that much spoilage? How did you single-handedly have like 50 spoilage? What the heck? Alright, that was weird, but we need to get the rest of this stuff out somehow automatically. And that is going to just require, I guess, just a lot of these. So we just need to do this, and now it's kind of convenient that this is all long and narrow, because it lets us just set this up and get all of these guys powered. And that should clear most, if not all, of the spoilage out, and then we just have a random heating tower over here which does nothing except to destroy spoilage. So that is that. Now our science can be mostly uninterrupted again. Although if this continues to be a problem, I don't know how exactly we'll deal with it. Oh, this last one didn't quite get within power range. There we go. Okay, and then that's apparently right where I'm physically standing, which I did not realize. Alright, so the spoilage goes out, and the science machines can work again. But we're going to need a better system for that, to prevent that from being a problem. Alright, so the transport platform is doing its normal thing. The Vulcanist support platform, you could definitely store more stuff. So let's get the carbon up to like 800 and the sulfur up to like 400 maybe? What does that do? That gets all of these. Alright. Does this need to be connected properly? Yeah, I think it does. Alright. So that's that. Now this should be able to hold a whole bunch of carbon and hopefully a decent amount of sulfur as well. Alright, so this is currently greater than 20, which is a good sign. And hopefully the recycling should be able to sustain it there for a while. Okay, we actually need to do something like this. So if it's empty and some time has passed, because we do want to give it some time to do its thing. Alright, what is this? Oh, this is... Apparently we actually needed that ice for something. So you get disconnected. And then you go like that. Alright, so yeah, we needed that ice to make water to actually run the engines, which I did not realize at all. Apparently we can store even more, so let's get this up to 1200 and you up to 600. just want to have plenty of storage of all those things so that when we get back to Vulcanus we can keep it going for a while. Which means preferably not wasting as much stuff by throwing it off the back. Alright, so the ice is actually item ingredient shortage, which is not a good sign. Now, the only place we're using ice is here. And if we can't even run one single crusher... Okay, now we're low power, just ever briefly. Yeah, we do apparently need a little bit more power on here. Let's just squeeze some solar panels into some random corners. And hopefully that will help a little bit. It's not that much, so it won't help much at all. This might be a case where a couple of accumulators might help, since it seems to mostly be fine. Alright, so now we're back above Novice. We are going to wait a little bit, collect some rocket fuel, and then that'll be that. Speaking of the rocket fuel, how is that supply going? We've got tons of spare rocket fuel, no problems there. I assume plastic is still a crisis, so we can't realistically export plastic anywhere and have it work properly. Alright, so the Foundation Crafter did make it back to Novice. So that's good. That means that we should be able to finish this. Alright, so these guys are showing their little exclamation points, but it's going to figure that out pretty quickly, I think. Keep losing more drones, as usual. We need more solar panels and more foundations up here. We are making foundations, but we still need more. There are 313 on Novice, which we might want to turn back off just for production concerns. Power is still doing fine, looks like. Alright, yeah, the whole donut thing is still being confused. We are making some coal here on Novice, so I guess that's going to burn through some of that carbon we picked up, which is totally fine. Alright, yeah, so we're already automatically headed back. So that's good. This is still going. And apparently we have all of the foundations here that we need. So we're up to 90 power, which is fine. Vulcanus support is still doing its thing. We've got tons of carbon backed up there. And the sulfur is continuing to pass through. We don't have much free space here, so we are not going to expand the requests anymore. Asteroid productivity is making good progress. We're probably going to have that done by the end of the stream. And then we just need... I wish I could set this to like prioritize which things that launched up first, because I would really prefer to have a steady stream of tungsten plates as opposed to like anything else is just sort of secondary to that. Alright, so we are just sort of waiting for things to get done. Over on Gleba, things appear to still be largely functioning properly. Just at a glance, things look fine. Production is higher than satisfaction. And we've got plenty of science going out whenever the delivery platform decides to show up. So that's all good. So over here, science is going steadily. Although we could always use more blue science, it looks like. Always use more blue science. And you are... What are you? Probably limited by the engine modules, it looks like. If not, then if I sped you up any more, you would be. So that's just going well. The behemoth biters are starting to show up, which is a bit of a problem because I don't have that much capacity to deal with them super easily at the moment. Again, we just need artillery to push these guys further back away from where they are. Which means we need tungsten plates, which means we need a steady connection to Vulcanus. So yeah, this is still completely bricked. Now, there is some way, right? Like, there's some way of getting something just purely from sulfuric acid, I think. Let's see here. So this sulfuric acid. No, I think you always need the coal and the calcite for that. I don't know, let's see here. What options are there in terms of using sulfur? You can use sulfuric acid to make steam, which isn't especially helpful. We can make bioplastic, which isn't especially helpful. We can make plastic directly from coal and petroleum gas. And simple coal liquefaction, regular coal liquefaction uses heavy oil. Yeah, so we definitely just need to be importing the coal there, or finding some way of getting coal to Vulcanus. And if this whole space platform thing doesn't work out in the short term, I might need to just go back to Vulcanus, find another coal patch, and just do it the old-fashioned way, which would require fighting some demolishers. Alright, so we're here now, which means that Vulcanus should be receiving plenty of supplies. The rocket fuel isn't going to be exceptionally useful because plastic is the shortage now. Alright, so do we have drones carrying this stuff over to here? Yes, we do. And sulfur seems to be the shortage at the moment. Okay, so a lot of this is just... This is horrific. Okay, you don't do that. We're taking coal and we're converting it to carbon. We're taking carbon, we're converting it to coal, and then we're converting that coal back to carbon. let's not do that, shall we? I don't know how you managed to get to this point, but let's just dismantle all of you. Alright, so we're not going to be doing that anymore. I'm not sure what we ended up using this stuff for. Go up here. It's not for this. It's... oh, it's for science? Okay, yeah, that's fine, I guess. We must have launched some science up at some point. But yeah, we definitely don't want to be doing that whole inefficient route to that. We just want... like a box to send it over. Alright, what... this happens every so often on Novice when there are a bunch of these guys out here. And they just keep... okay, so I think the problem is the behemoth biters. I think the behemoth biters are too big to get through the annoying walls, and so they get stuck and start destroying them, which is what causes these problems. Which means we might have to design these differently. But, I mean, we have literally thousands of drones, so I'm not that worried about it at the end of the day. Alright, you're already headed back. You are already heading back. Did you pick up anything useful? You didn't pick up any tungsten, no. Because this... although I do see plastic coming out now, so that's something at least. Looks like we're getting plastic. Looks like we might be getting a little bit of heavy oil production as well. So yeah, we do have enough coal here that the fluid ingredient petroleum gas is actually the shortage. Okay, and now this doesn't have any carbon anymore because the platform left. Can I get you to request more carbon? No, you're already requesting like 1,000. Okay. Well, maybe it's just a problem that we can't bring it down here fast enough. So what if we do that, and then that, and that's not going to work, is it? Okay, what if we move that beacon? Actually, yeah, we kind of just don't need that beacon at all. So let's add a bunch of those guys in so that theoretically we can dump a whole bunch of carbon down fast enough, and then let's set this to like 10k, just an insanely high number, so that we get as much delivered as soon as possible. Okay, so this is headed back this way. And it's weirdly managed to catch a carbonic asteroid chunk in there. Oh, that's probably because you weren't filtered properly. Yeah, that's what happened. Okay, that's fine. Fixed that problem. We're still traveling. And we're going to have to get rid of that asteroid chunk at some point. Alright, asteroid productivity. Is this just like plus 10%? Yes, so it's just plus 10%, but it's plus 10% on all of this stuff, which should be pretty neat. And then the plastic productivity will also be very valuable on Vulcanus. And from there, we're just gonna sort of be doing our thing. Alright, we are almost there. we just need a way for this to have even more storage so that we are not wasting all this carbon. And you are at 50. Let's set this down to like 5, just so that it runs more regularly, or it'll stay longer, basically, is the idea. Because we have plenty of resources here, even if they aren't in carbonic asteroid form. They'll be converted there eventually. Alright, so this is... Apparently we received a new shipment from Gleba. So that's always nice. Okay, but there's going to be a whole giant spoilage problem in the science at some point in the future. I can just tell already. Which, the easy way to fix that would be to just have more blue science, because that's like the main limiting factor at this point. Okay. So that is feeding a storage of engine units, which means that we can't draw in engine units from elsewhere, or else that'll break. But it does mean... Let's see here. If we expand this, they would need to expand that too. We need the engine units for a bunch of things. Yeah, I think expanding the science production is going to be something we do soon-ish, but not right now. Alright, you can sort of chill on the rocket fuel. I think bringing some over wouldn't hurt, but going all the absolutely crazy with it is not necessary. Okay, so this is back up to a couple hundred spare foundations, which means you know what time it is. Time to copy paste some solar panels over again. And we're just going to do this again and just fill in as much space as we can without overwriting anything. And we're going to need to fill in that space as well. We left a bit of a gap there, but I think that gap couldn't have been used for anything anyway, so it's fine. Alright, so all those extra solar panels are in. Now you need to be set up to automatically go every so often. So let's give you a decider combinator, and you can just pop in there. And you are going to read these belts for everything. Wait, how do we do this? We need to read these belts for... I wish there was like a total. I guess anything... No, we probably need to just scan for carbonic, because that's going to be the one which lasts longest, I think. At least based on how we've done this. So if carbonic asteroids are less than 0... So if we do that, less than 10, let's say. Wait, no, you're not enable disable. That's not what we're doing at all. We're just reading the contents. So you have to go to here. And if... So here we do carbonic asteroids. Where are you? Carbonic asteroid chunks. less than 10. Output that same low battery signal, and then that is going to go to here, and then you are going to do circuit condition, low battery signal greater than 0. Alright, so that should be that. And then you're going to go to Gleba, and you're going to wait for like 5 seconds. I don't know. And then just go back to Novice immediately. Alright, so that is that. And hopefully 98 megawatts is enough to have this going properly. Also, it looks like this has bricked. Okay, that's a fun new problem to deal with. So we have too much of this. Not enough ice cubes. Alright, so if this is the limiting factor, we need to get rid of it somehow, which I guess just pop you onto there. And I guess that'll happen as soon as we get the foundation for it. Now that's probably going to cause all sorts of weird side effects. Although, actually, all of a sudden it's not an issue anymore. Yeah, I think it might just not be a problem. It might just be a problem of us being stationary for a while, that sort of started to happen. But if we just dismantle that, then it should be fine. Alright, so now if we go here, we're still less than 10. We should be starting to grow more than that pretty soon. Although maybe the number has to be lower, because this is actually like quite a lot. Yeah, okay, no, now we're up to like the 20s. That's basically what I expected. Alright, so this is going, and now that it's in motion, the power demand is rising. But it's like almost keeping up, so that's cool. Back on Novice, we've now got plenty of spare rockets just sitting around doing nothing useful. So we are not low on asteroids. Can't remember what type of asteroid I set this to scan for. Set it to scan for the carbon ones, that makes sense. Not low on asteroids. We have deployed all of our carbon, and we are getting a lot more quickly. Alright, so then this is going through, and now we have fluid ingredient shortages instead of anything else. And this, I think we just need to set this up to 1,000 so that we can get more drones on the task. So we just need to get this as full as possible. And it looks like it is. At least in the short term, this is keeping up. And then the coal itself is nowhere near enough, right? We need so much coal for all that. And this provides just like a slow trickle. So that's not great. We're gonna need more. But it's something. We are once again outputting plastic. Alright. So that's that. So is this doing its thing? This is headed back. So it made it to Gleba and it's headed back to Novice. And no issues on ammunition. Actually, yes, issues on ammunition potentially. Okay, so we're gonna need more power. We're still at like halfway to the power going. Good news is we are making space platform foundations, which should keep this whole thing functional. Okay, what I want to do actually is connect you in. You are going to read all belts. And we're going to set you to be ammunition. Firearm magazines are greater than 20, let's say. It looks like when they're just passing through, it's going to be in the realm of 9. So, when there are 20-ish firearm magazines on this, that should mean that we have enough. So then this is, I guess, the return trip. We'll just have to try to get through it safely. Alright, so this is doing its thing. We have 140 carbonic asteroid chunks. So that's not an issue at all. We actually have enough copper. Copper wire is backlogged. This one never got attached up to pipes. You can get attached up to pipes so that we have the full steel output. So that is that. And these aren't getting enough calcite because I made that not be an exit. Alright, that's fine though. I can actually fix that relatively easily, so I just need to take this chunk in here out, bring that over to here, and then we need to clear out this area so that this is an exit again. What's going on here? Okay, yeah, nope, we're definitely in trouble now. Just have to make it back. There's not much we can do about that. Yeah, so this is far from ideal. We're losing all sorts of stuff, and now we're losing the belts which keep things running. Which, alright, you need to just pause thrust. Alright, so we had a bit of a catastrophe there. Yeah, so that is unfortunate. I think it is still just the power demand. Like, these guys aren't getting enough iron to produce the ammunition fast enough to keep up with everything. And it's not that bad, really. We just need to continue expanding our power, and that problem should go away eventually. And expanding the power is dramatically easier now that we have all this foundation production on the platform itself. So it should be easier until we fill in. I mean, we are starting to run out of space in this block that we've built for ourselves, which could be an issue. Could be an issue, but hopefully it'll be fine. So yeah, the thing we can't do is we can't just make 2 trips to Gleba and back from Gleba instantaneously. We have to sort of pause a little bit at some point to recover. So if we set this to like 120 seconds, just give us a couple minutes at Gleba to restock, that should mostly do it. Alright, so now we just have to get the repairs in, and that'll be fine. So we're going to get a whole lot of extra solar panels, which will be quite convenient. And I guess we're going to be getting some foundations up from the planet as well. Okay. So Vulcanist support has managed to completely fill itself up. So that's going to be an issue. Novice, meanwhile, does not have any signs of the ability to craft ammunition, so that has failed again. Alright, so what is on here which we can just get rid of? Get rid of that iron. You don't really need these modules or beacons or assembly machines. Most of this is just crafting stuff that we don't need to have access to because it's mostly just set up. So we're just gonna throw those into the orbital drop slots, and then I suppose it wouldn't be terribly difficult to add more storage space onto this. Like, just push this chunk down a little bit, put another cargo bay in. Wouldn't be all that bad. Which we're probably going to have to do that. I would really, really love it if Vulcanus could get enough plastic to do something useful. It looks like we have coal backlogs in everywhere except for the refinery line, which is unsurprising. Alright, so I think we're going to wrap up the stream there. This is about when I normally end. And so next time, it is all about the coal on Vulcanus. So we're just going to need to get that set up properly so that it works. And we're going to need to either physically go to Vulcanus and find some coal to mine and bring over, or we're going to need to just get way more space platform carbon and sulfur input. Either of those should work, but we're gonna have to do one of them. So that will be on Wednesday. I will be doing Satisfactory tomorrow, where we are continuing to chip along on our plutonium power plant. And that'll be that. So yeah, thanks everyone for hanging out. I stream every weekday from 2 to 5 Eastern Time. So if you're interested, make sure to stop by then and follow if you haven't already. And that's about it. I will see you guys next time.